Hey guys, my name is Camila, and this is my first drawing video where I share a graphite portrait study with you. As you can see, I picked this reference because there's a lot of shadow there, so it's going to be amazing for this study that we're going to be doing today. So in my sketchbook, I start placing facial guidelines from top to bottom, so it's easier to see where should I stop and where should I start the drawing. As you can see, I started from his beanie and then I went all the way down to his beard, and now I'm already doing the eyebrows, the eyes, placing where the nose will be, because for me it's easier to take the hardest parts of the drawing out of the way already, because when you are freehand sketching, it gives the sensation that the drawing gets easier for some reason. So I would recommend starting from the hardest parts of the drawing and then going for the rest of it. And for this exact reason, I already started shaping the features of his face, because after this, we're already gonna start the light shading and then we're gonna go to the darkest ones. Since I'm looking at a reference to sketch this one, you're gonna see that the reference I used, it doesn't really show where his eyes should be. I had to figure that out, because if you just leave it blank and then just paint it black, because that's how it looks in the reference, it's not gonna look right. So you, even though it doesn't show in the picture, you should always try to imagine where it should be, and then you draw it and then you paint it over it. And for the same reason here, I am drawing his eyebrows, even though in the reference his eyebrows are white because of the lighting. But you still should draw it and then you just erase it afterwards, because you should have an idea of how it looks like before the end result. I think at this point you guys already noticed that I'm using the same type of pencil since the beginning. For me, it doesn't make such of a difference if I use a different one or not in this step, because it's still very light shading, so it doesn't really make that much of a difference, at least in my eyes. But then when we go to the darkest shades, you're gonna see that I'm gonna change the type of pencil I'm using. But right now, I'm just using a mechanical pencil in zero point 0.5 graphite. So at this point, I'm already making the shades darker. It still does not make sense to me to change pencils because it's still not dark enough, but soon I am going to have to change it. You're just gonna see in what step I'm gonna change in the future. But since I'm gonna use a blending stick, it does not really matter which type of graphite I'm using in this step of the drawing. But soon enough, we are gonna have to change it, because if you don't and you use the wrong type of pencil to do really, really dark shades, you are gonna have that shiny finish that nobody likes. So just bear with me and you're gonna see. And since we're already shading, I like to give a lot of details in his skin, because from now on, I'm not really gonna change the wrinkles. For example, the wrinkles around his nose, the eyes, and the eyebrows. If I do change it, it's gonna be very minimal. So I already like to have that idea of how it's gonna look like at the end, even though the drawing is not finished yet. And I would also like to remind you to always remember about the accessories, because sometimes we really focus on the face and we don't look at anything else. So if you forget to shade any little accessory that the image or the sketch has, it's not gonna have that kind of realistic look, because it's impossible for his face to be with a bunch of shading but his accessories and clothes not. So my advice is always try to focus on everything in general, not just parts of his body or parts of his face. And this is the easiest part for me, is where we start blending everything together. Always start from the darkest to the medium and to the lightest, because if you go from the darkest to the lightest, especially if you already used your blend stick before, it's gonna be much darker than you actually want, and you have to come with the eraser later. So just go from dark to medium and then to light, and you're not gonna have much problems there. And now I'm just highlighting where I know it's lighter than any other shade in the picture. And it's very important that you have a blending stick that it's small. I think they come in packs, so you don't have to worry about buying a separate one just for that. But they're amazing to blend in those places that are very, very small. And as you can see, I started using another pencil. It's a 6B pencil. It doesn't really matter the brand. I'm just using to detail more where the darkest parts of his face is. And then I'm gonna show you later how it's gonna look like in a close-up. But right now I think you can see a little bit of difference there. And I'm gonna start using an eraser that's very tiny. I'm gonna put the name in the video. It's amazing to do detailing, especially in sketches that you really are going to use shadow, a lot of shadow. So you're going to see that that is going to save me, because if I try to do with any other type of eraser, I would spend hours trying to do what I can do in minutes with it. So right now I'm doing the beanie. Don't forget the shadows in the beanie, please, or else it's not going to look very realistic. And I started using the 7B pencil for the darkest places in his shirt. And you blend that in, and then you come with another pencil that it's darker than that one, because remember, there is no light there. If you remember the reference, I am going to put it close to the picture here. You're going to see that there is barely light in that place in his shirt. So just try to do your best to make it as dark as you can. And obviously, for the lightest parts of his shirt, I'm gonna use a 2H pencil because it's very light, it's very easy to blend in. And I'm just gonna come with my mechanical pencil to do the folds in his shirt. Honestly, if you're gonna do the same reference as me, I do not recommend to draw folds in his shirt, because it kind of took away the details of his face. I don't know if you could see that, but at least in my mind, that makes sense. So if I was gonna redo that drawing one day, I wouldn't have done what I did in his shirt. So as you can see, I'm using the small eraser in his beanie because, like I said, it's amazing for detailing, and I can't really do that with the other eraser that I have. And we're gonna go with the highlights and the lightest parts of the beanie now. So just really pay attention on where the light is getting, like in the image, and where it's not. And you're not gonna have much problems there, because honestly, it's just erasing. And now is the hardest part, which is the hair. Always try to draw the hair not in the same position, or not going to the same direction, because or else it's not gonna look realistic. It's just gonna look like straight lines. So I always try to make a make a strand go down or go up. And especially for his beard, always try to get out of the line a little bit, because that makes all the difference, honestly. When you look at the close-up at the end of the video, you're gonna see that it doesn't look like it makes that much of a difference. But if you don't do that, the hair just looks flat, and we do not want that. So I'm just going again with the eraser to do the highlights in the cheek. And honestly, this is just small fixings that I've realized that I forgot to do in the process, but we're basically done. Now you're gonna see the close-up, and please let me know in the comments what you think, what you think I should do better. And as you could see, I did not use any grid method because this was just a study sketch, but please let me know. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.